Hello, folks. Welcome to Dangerous Ideas. We are in day 167 of Israel's special genocide operation, and I just thought I'd start off the show with another congressman running for his life as he's asked why he endorses genocide. This is coming all again from Code Pink. I just had Medea Benjamin on the show the other day there.
What are your thoughts on the... Would you please get out of my way?
This is Congressman Brad Sherman. He's taken $719,000 from the pro-Israel lobby.
Why are you running? We're just trying to talk to you about 30,000 Palestinians who've been murdered.
Blood on your hands for the genocide. Blood on your hands. You're trying to kill every Jew. You're trying to kill every Palestinian.
He claims, for those of you who couldn't hear, he claims to the protesters asking him why he endorses the murder of 30,000 Palestinians. He claims that the protesters are trying to kill every Jew, is what he says. That's a good way to respond when you're asked why you're endorsing this genocide.
You're funding the death of Palestinians.
But I love how he's legitimately sprinting away at some points. Runs into his office, slams the door. And, this is a day-to-day occurrence of our congresspeople that don't represent Americans at all, with over 60% of Americans, maybe it's more like 70% now, endorsing a ceasefire. And these politicians don't represent us at all. And so the only answer they have is to sprint away and try and hide in an office somewhere. Because they are endorsing a genocide. They are furthering this genocide. This is, like I said, day 167. 32,430 Palestinians have been murdered by Israel. 74,188 have been wounded. And now they're attacking. They've been attacking for several days Al-Shifa Hospital. Apparently, they executed over 100 people. Just straight up in the hospital, executed over 100 people, according to reports. Let's see. This is a photo of the smoke coming up from Al-Shifa Hospital. Israel is, of course, trying to destroy the entire hospital system in Gaza because they want as many people as possible to die from disease and from wounds and from anything else that they can come up with. And as I brought to you, this whole pier thing is just bullshit. It's a ruse. It's something that has been an ongoing plan of Israel's for years and years now, since at least 2015. It's been floated, literally. It's been floated to create a pier off of Gaza in order to allow for ethnic cleansing, in order to force as many Gazans out of Gaza as possible. And let's see, here is George Galloway, one of the good guys in UK Parliament, speaking out about the other day about this very thing. He was, as I covered on this show, he was elected yet again to Parliament, even though they've done everything they can to try and keep this man out of Parliament in the UK. And something I actually didn't know, I'll just say this real quick. I didn't know about George Galloway because I only got to know him a few years ago, so I didn't really follow what happened, in the early 2000s. He was attacked by a person, an Israel supporter, a person wearing an IDF T-shirt, I believe at the time, attacked so thoroughly that he nearly died. George Galloway did. The scar on his head was so severe that he initially started wearing his famous hat to cover the horrific scar. And the man who beat him so much was, after he served some time in jail, people raised funds for him to fly to Israel and live in Israel going forward. So George Galloway has been attacked horribly to within inches of his life for his support of Palestinians and the freedom of Palestinians. And anyway, here he is again in Parliament.
Minister Netanyahu announced that this port that's being built in Gaza, with the rubble of the homes destroyed in the bombing, including the skulls and the bones of the people destroyed with the houses and lying unburied under the rubble, that according to Netanyahu, this port is being built for the deportation of millions of Palestinians from the territory, an act of ethnic cleansing. of the foulest kind. We would have expected a statement from the Foreign Secretary.
The clip ends there, but he's basically saying that the Foreign Secretary in the UK isn't even commenting on this ethnic cleansing, the plan to use this port for ethnic cleansing, which is the real reason for it. And you'll notice when they show him in Parliament there towards the end, because every parliamentarian who wants to speak is, given, I don't know, not much time, but a certain amount of time. You'll notice that almost the entire Parliament is empty, because none of them actually want to stay and listen to someone who's anti-war, someone who fights back and speaks out against this empire. And I include the UK in the US empire. It is now a vassal state of the US empire, as is most, if not all, of Europe. And anyway, they hate that he's there. They hate that he won that seat, and they hate that he's saying things just like that in Parliament every day. So I hope he keeps fighting there. And by the way, an update on requesting an interview with him. He and his producer have told me yes, but nailing down a time is harder than just getting the yes, I guess. But on this same topic, let's hear what good old Jared Kushner said. Now, you recall that Jared Kushner is not just the loser, always failing upward son-in-law of Donald Trump. He also was the idiot that Donald Trump put in charge of solving the Israel-Palestine conflict, as they call it. It's funny when you have an apartheid state, when you have a settler colonial state oppressing and abusing people. It's funny to call it a conflict. It's just a conflict. They're conflicted about being abused and ethnically cleansed for decades and decades. Anyway, Jared Kushner, as I'm sure some of you, because this has gone a little viral, so you probably saw this. Even ABC News covered it. That Jared Kushner in an interview, praised the very valuable potential of Gaza's waterfront property. And of course, he's talking about how valuable it is once you, whoever it is, once Israel and the Zionists in the United States. And once again, in case you need that little reminder, Zionism does not mean Jewish. I am Jewish. I am not a Zionist. Okay, there are millions of anti-Zionist Jews. There are also millions of Zionist Christians. There are far more Zionist Christians, meaning supporting the Israeli apartheid regime. There are far more Zionist Christians in America than there are Jews in the entire world. So, don't get your terminology twisted. Anyway, he's talking about how valuable this property would be once they clear out all of the refugees that have been forced there because they've been kicked off previous land of theirs. I'm glad a lot of people are talking about that. That's not all he said. Here's a little clip of something else he noted in this interview. And, he speaks for a lot. It's not just Jared Kushner. He speaks for a lot of those endorsing this genocide, endorsing this Zionist apartheid project. And anyway, here's something else he noted.
But also there are real fears on the part of Arabs, and I'm sure you talk to a lot of them, who think once Gazans leave Gaza, Netanyahu's never going to let them back in.
Maybe, but I'm not sure there's much left of Gaza at this point. So
there you go. Once we have obliterated Gaza, there won't be much left of it. So then we can go in and get the valuable waterfront property. And this is what he said there is something that you can see is by design, by Israel, by the IDF, is to destroy not just Gaza, not just ethnically cleansed, but to destroy anything that would make the Gaza area something that people would want to return to. So once they have continued this ethnic cleansing project, and maybe I need to remind some people that Israel has outwardly stated that if the hostages, and I'm talking the Israeli hostages, not the 10,000 Palestinian hostages that Israel has, but if the hostages were returned tomorrow, Israel would continue their quote-unquote operation. Now, why would they continue it if the hostages have been returned? Oh, because the operation is about ethnic cleansing. It's not really about the hostages. The hostages are a nice little thing to hold up, like dangling keys in front of a toddler. And then they look around and they go, oh, look at that. And then you don't have to actually have the real discussions as to what is really going on here. But they have destroyed, they're aiming to destroy the things that would get Gazans and require Gazans and motivate Gazans and Palestinians to return to Gaza after they are pushed out to God knows where. And those things are things like mosques, cemeteries where their loved ones are buried, right? Housing that they consider their home. All of this is being destroyed, uprooted, annihilated, obliterated, razed because Israel doesn't want there to be anything to come back to. That is the goal of ethnic cleansing in this way. And of course, we've seen this through generations and historically all around the world. When an area of people is ethnically cleansed, what do the raiders, what do the settler colonizers do? They burn down most of what was there before. This often happens so that the people don't have anything to come back to. And here's Jared Kushner saying the quiet part loud that, oh, well, you know, it doesn't matter if Arabs can't come back in, there's nothing to come back to. It doesn't matter. What a fantastic piece of shit. I feel like that should have been the lead of the CNN story. What a fantastic piece of shit. I have a lot for you in this upcoming hour. I mean, we've already covered a lot, but I will be getting into the truth about Haiti. I will be getting into the collapse or the seeming disintegration, maybe not collapse, but disintegration of the chain of command in the IDF, the Israeli military. I'm going to be talking about that. So much important stuff. So please click thumbs up, click share, let people know about this. I live stream 4 days a week. So just show up Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern. And if you're in an area of the world where they don't do daylight savings time because it's ridiculous, then you might have to check that this is at a different time than you're used to, because we do daylight savings time or whatever the hell it is. Anyway, let's skip ahead to, well, no, I should do the story for just real quick, that before I get to the chain of command collapsing. Oh, and also you can support this show by clicking the super chats, both on Rumble or on YouTube. You can also click on YouTube even after this is live. So it doesn't have to be live for you to click the thanks button or the heart with the $sign or whatever, and throw a couple of bucks to support this show. So thank you so much, any of you who are able to do that. But let me just, since we're talking about the amount of land here that Israel is stealing, interesting article by antiwar.com saying Israel will steal 16% of Gaza's land simply by establishing the quote-unquote buffer zone. So even if they didn't ethnically cleanse all of the people, create this port, ship them out to sea, and then expect other countries to step in and allow them to resettle there, even if that didn't happen, Israel still has plans on the books that they have put forward to steal 16% of all the Gazan land, which is small to begin with, 25 miles long, 5 miles wide. It's already not very big, already smaller. All of Israel smaller than New Jersey, I believe. So it's already not very big, and Israel wants to steal 16% of it for a quote-unquote buffer zone that they're creating with Gaza. But of course, that would be if the ethnic cleansing, it does not continue. I mean, it already is. In case you were wondering, it already is an ethnic cleansing. It doesn't have to. This is one of the dumb things that people, one of these garbage outlets was coming after me on Twitter about, acting like, well, if you don't genocide everyone, if you leave one person standing in Gaza, then it's not genocide because you didn't kill them all. That's not how the definition of genocide works. All right, at all. Because under that definition, the Holocaust would not have been genocide. So it's ridiculous. Anybody who's like, oh, no, this isn't ethnic cleansing because there's still people there. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. You didn't get every last one. Well, that's not anything bad then. That's fine. Fine. Unless you get everyone. I mean, the arguments are so pathetic. It's like watching these people try and argue this stuff is just the saddest shit in the world. You got nothing. You got nothing. So let's get into this, the disintegration of the chain of command within the IDF. And I will also say that when I was reading this article, so this article is an opinion piece in Haaretz, as I mentioned several times on the show, Haaretz is an Israeli news outlet that is more towards the like New York Times of Israel. It's considered by some in Israel to be the left-wing newspaper, but of course, it's at the end of the day, it's liberal. You know, it still calls this Israel's war with Hamas, when in fact this is Israel's genocide on the Gazan people, on the Palestinian people. So, you know, it's liberal at best. But anyway, occasionally they will print accurate stuff like this, or what they call opinion pieces like this, and you know, they're important to take note of. But what I was going to say is, while I was reading this, it reminded me a lot of things my father has said about Vietnam. My father was in Vietnam as a doctor. He didn't really. He has been, I don't know, outspoken against the Vietnam War and its aims since he was there. And he actually wrote an entire book that is about the size of a small Volkswagen car, about how much the chain of command fell apart in the U.S. ranks, how horrible it was, how horrible the commanding officers, what they were expecting of all these drafted Americans, et cetera, et cetera. And anyway, reading this article reminded me a lot of what you were seeing there. And there's a lot of similarities, because as veteran Matthew Ho called it, former State Department official and military veteran Matthew Ho, who I had on this show a couple of weeks ago, as he called it, these people are suffering moral injury. I mean, yes, there are some extreme sociopaths or psychopaths in the military, in both the U.S. military and Israel, but a lot of these people are not psychopaths. They've just been indoctrinated and brainwashed to such an insane level that they're part of these militaries. And they then find themselves in these horrific situations where they have to try and justify the horror show, the absolute disgusting, depraved, just I don't know what to call it other than a horror show of genocide, of what the IDF is doing. They have to try and justify that in their brains, and their brain can't do it and doesn't know how to. I mean, for some of them, they actually succeed, which is even scarier, but in justifying it, I mean. Anyway, so you then see a lot of breakdown of command, a lot of breakdown of what it is these people are doing. I mean, what is their goal? What is their aim? And anyway, so I think there's some similarities to Vietnam here, but he doesn't mention that in this article. The article is by, I'm going to mispronounce his first name, but Yigal Levy, who's a well-known war expert and sociologist in Israel. And he says, he mentioned several incidents that I don't necessarily know about, specifics of what the Israeli army is doing in Gaza and various divisions and what this commander did in that one. But he calls these symptoms of the disintegration of the IDF's chain of command, which is far more severe than previously perceived. The commander of the Army's 36th Armored Division, Brigadier General David Bar Khalifa, issued a handwritten battle directive to his troops, calling on them to take revenge on Palestinians. So obviously, if you have a correctly functioning military that is not trying to just all out commit genocide, you don't allow brigadier generals to put out memos saying, hey, just exact revenge. Whatever you want to do, you do it. And that's what this guy basically did. But he then continues, is there any wonder that when Bar Khalifa was ordered to move his forces outside of Gaza, senior army officials suspected that their directives were intentionally disregarded? So the people above him tell him to move his forces outside of Gaza, and he won't do it because chain of command is breaking down. The IDF chain of command is 100%, as this article says, disintegrating. Brigadier General Barak Hiram not only ordered his troops to open fire on Israeli civilians and blew up a Palestinian university in Gaza without permission, but also stated in an interview with journalist Ilana Dayan, right as the war started, that Israel's political leadership should refrain from any prospect of a political solution to the crisis. The IDF's chief of staff didn't say a word then either. It's not only the division commanders that are at issue here, but also the soldiers. The video recordings capturing the troops' actions, their calls for Jewish resettlement of the Gaza Strip, right? All of this goes against what we ostensibly are supposed to believe as we're sitting here in the United States or whatever country you're in. I don't think many of you are Israeli. You're probably not watching this, but whatever country you're in, we're meant to believe, Israel's just trying to get the Hamas. They're going in to get the Hamas, and that's what they're doing. And Hamas actually lives inside of the other Palestinian, like inside the children. And so they got to bomb the children to get the Hamas out of the children is what they got to do. So we're supposed to sit here. And thank you so much, Any Sundry Mule, for the donation. And nice name. Thank you so much for helping keep this show going. But we're told to believe, right, that they're going after Hamas. But this goes against all of this, telling soldiers to exact revenge, soldiers posting clips saying, talking about Jewish resettlement of the Gaza Strip. All of that is actually proving this is ethnic cleansing. And for the most part, Israel's trying to refrain from saying we are completely ethnically cleansing this area. I mean, at times they don't, but most of the time they're trying. The troops' usage of social media to criticize the alleged restraint on their ability to use deadly force, their looting, and much more. So he's talking about all these. Many of you have seen these videos of IDF looting, stealing out of safes, stealing various products. I brought you video footage from an Israeli TV report about the looting, except they were covering it in an almost positive way. They were like, look at this soldier brought home jewelry to his girlfriend. Yay! Yay, looting. And by the way, most of the things I've mentioned are war crimes. Exacting revenge on a population because you're angry with what some militants did, that's a war crime. You're not technically allowed to do that by international law. So many of these things are war crimes. And going outside of the chain of command to just kill who you want. Anyway, to continue from the article, they're looting and much more, which the Army's leadership finds hard or is reluctant to restrain. Several factors have combined to promote this disintegration. And here's where I both find what he's about to say fascinating, because he gives some points as to why the chain of command is disintegrating in the IDF. But I also think in a way he's almost trying to be like, if we just fix these few things, we could have a better genocide. Like we would be able to do war better if we just fixed a few things. Anyway, he says several factors combine. First, the Army's hierarchy weakens as the model of mandatory military service crumbles and the idea of volunteer service grows. This is the moment when the reservists feel they have a right to speak up. And I actually brought a little bit of this to you a couple of weeks ago about how there's a rift in the military where the reservists are viewed as kind of honorable because it's like they didn't really want to be. They didn't volunteer to. They're just on reserve. They didn't volunteer to be there. Whereas the enlisted people that volunteered to be part of this genocide apparently are getting not as viewed as highly in Israeli society. And I'm not over there, so I can't speak to it, but that's what the article said. This mindset, which constitutes the second factor, was reinforced by the exceptional circumstances brought about by the war. Combat soldiers, both men and women, who were ordered to risk their lives and serve. I, again, hate that word, especially with imperial militaries, especially when militaries committing genocide. I don't think it's serving. I don't think you're serving your country. You're serving genocide is what you're doing in this case. And so it should really be, they were in the military. That was a thing that happened. Kind of like these people were part of Charles Manson's group, like they didn't serve in Manson's group. They didn't. You see what I'm saying? Thank you so much for the donation, Darren. Rocking it. And he says it's for beer money. I will make sure. Listen, if anybody says the money must go towards beer, then I will do it out of service. I will. It is my responsibility to serve you. And thank you for the kind words, Darren, and for keeping this show going. But combat soldiers, both men and women, who are ordered to risk their lives and be in Gaza for prolonged durations, not only feel that the burden of sacrifice rests on their somewhat limited shoulders, but that it's also up to them to save Israel from its failed political leadership and senior army command. And, you know, about the failed political leadership, yes, this is absolutely a failed political leadership in Israel right now. Netanyahu, these far-right messianic lunatics, absolutely. However, do not let our government or other Western governments or other Western propaganda outlets tell you that this is just Netanyahu's fault and it would be fine if Netanyahu weren't there. No, it is an oppressive, horrific apartheid regime that has been destroying lives of Palestinians for decades. Don't let them tell you if you get rid of Netanyahu, if he's voted out, if that Yahoo moves on, then it'll be fixed. No, it won't. All these factors are intensified by the high proportion of combat soldiers who identify as supporters of right-wing and religious high proportion of combat soldiers who identify as supporters of right-wing and religious right parties. So, yeah, I mean, when you have a lot of far-right lunatics in your military, you end up with your military acting like lunatics. That is absolutely true. The third factor, although let me throw in here, I feel like what he's saying is important, but it does need a lot of additions. The reason the far right fits so well in these militaries, both the Israel's IDF and the U.S. military, right? There are a lot of white supremacists in the U.S. military. There have been plenty of reporting on the number of white supremacists in the U.S. military. And I don't mean our systemic white supremacists in the military. I mean full-on white supremacists in the military. Thank you so much, the Rising People, for the donation and the solidarity. Thank you so much. The reason there are so many far-right lunatics in these militaries is because that fits with the mission statement of these imperial militaries. Like, the mission statement of the U.S. military is to go to other countries and destroy them and wreck them. Afghanistan, Libya, Iraq, Yemen, Syria, so many other places over the generations. That is the mission statement of the U.S. military. So they fit right in, right? Right-wing, far right-wing lunatics fit right in to the mission statement of the U.S. Imperial Guard, okay? And similarly, in Israel, the right wing fits in perfectly. They're being asked to perpetrate genocide. They're being asked to go over there and not care when they shoot children, sometimes intentionally shooting children, but at least not care when they shoot children. And I'm not talking about the bombing, but shoot children because that's okay because they're going after Hamas and oopsie, a child got in the way. That's what they're being told. And so who is able to do that most easily? Who is already in the right mindset for that? Far right-wing lunatics who want to kill children anyway because they're different and they're a different skin color or different religion or whatever else. They fit right in with the mission statement. So that's how you end up with so many far-right psychopaths. And the most psychopathic of these soldiers, both in the U.S. and IDF, tend to be the leaders of the others. I don't mean they're always promoted the most sometimes, but they tend to lead the other troops because those who are slightly less, and I don't know whether this is contentious or not. I studied some psychology, but I didn't study this. But I think that sociopathy and psychopathy are on a sliding scale to some degree. So you could have someone who's a slight sociopath and someone who's an extreme sociopath, in my view. I don't know what kind of literature there is on that, but the ones who are the worst end up leading the other soldiers. The other soldiers fall in line. And it's the same with our brutal police force here in the United States as well. And I've had ex-police officers say that to me in interviews, that they they usually, a police force, a police department usually ends up getting led by the ex-military goons that are the harshest of the bunch, because the guy who's like, hey, I think we should treat these people a little better. Maybe if we catch someone stealing a pack of gum, we shouldn't slam their head on the sidewalk so hard. That guy doesn't get promoted, doesn't demand respect from the other sociopaths. So that guy is not the one leading the charge in any of these circumstances. IDF, U.S. police, U.S. military. Okay, so moving on in the article, the third factor is the politicians who disrupt the Army's chain of command, especially right-wing politicians who support the soldiers' and officers' unusual behavior. The IDF's chief of staff refrained from restraining the soldiers. How could he discipline a reservist who has been serving in Gaza for weeks and decided to take a picture with looted Palestinian property, sometimes looted women's underwear, or voice a concern to the government? That's how the chief of staff lost control of the military. So here you have a highly respected, I don't want to bury the lead here. The lead of this is you have a highly respected war expert and sociologist in Israel saying the chain of command is done, is broken. These people are not respecting the higher ups. The higher ups do not feel capable of telling the lower level soldiers what to do. That is the chain of command. And this guy, at least, is saying it's all but gone, which is pretty incredible to hear from someone who knows far more about what's going on over there than I do. Just to finish up here, the crumbling of the army intensifies when it's clear to the commanders out in the field that the sacrifice of their soldiers isn't translated into any achievements. And to me, this was the red alarm of, wow, this is like Vietnam. This is soldiers, quote unquote, sacrificing. Some of them are dying. I mean, many IDF have been killed by Hamas, but then they're sacrificing in other ways: moral injury, emotional injury, everything else, time. But they're part of a genocide. I mean, they're sacrificing their mental sanity, whether they know it or not, by being a part of this. And they will never be the same. They have taken part in genocide. So there are many, quote unquote, sacrifices. That's another word that we can argue about how that's a bit of a propagandistic term. But there are many sacrifices by these soldiers to be a part of this. And when they don't see any achievements, because what I think most of these soldiers don't realize is the goal of Israel is to just ethnically cleanse the whole area. So the achievements of let's rescue hostages, let's attack Hamas, let's get the Hamas leaders, all that's bullshit. So you're not going to see achievements in that way because that's not really what the aim is. And I don't know what percentage of the IDF believes that or doesn't believe that garbage, that propaganda. I mean, never underestimate the cleanliness of a good brainwashing. Anyway, isn't translated in any achievements, which can only be political achievements. And therefore, all they can do in the meantime is to wander aimlessly in Gaza and count their losses. Wander aimlessly through Gaza, murdering people, stealing their property, and count their losses. That is what the IDF is doing. And again, this is not according to some far left American activist newspaper. This is in the liberal outlet Haaretz, the Israeli newspaper, and by a well-known war expert and sociologist, Israeli. So to me, that is a big, if our media were covering the fact that the IDF chain of command had broken down, that would be a goddamn big story, a massive story. But our media is not covering any of that shit, right? Because they want to promote the idea that Israel is doing right to some degree and just hasn't appropriately counted for all the civilians that happen to be maybe under the bombs. I want to bring you, I was going to bring this the other day, I didn't have time, but I want to bring you just a quick snippet of the truth about the hostages that Israel has held for years. They grabbed 5,000 more after October 7th, or, could be 10,000, but it's at least 5,000 more. But prior to October 7th, Israel had at least 5,000 Palestinians in their prisons. And the argument, and I don't know if those of you are arguing in with your families or friends about this garbage, people trying to defend what Israel's doing right now. And I should, by the way, point out, I will be getting beyond Israel for a moment. In just a moment, I will be getting to what's going on in Haiti, etc. But they go, well, one of the things they love to say is, well, if Hamas would just release the hostages, then it would all end. First of all, Israel said, no, it won't. Secondly, they don't seem to understand or care that Israel had 5,000 hostages before October 7th. And some people who maybe knew that Israel had 5,000 hostages will go, oh, those aren't hostages. Those were Palestinians convicted of crimes. Really? Children? That many children convicted of crimes? Here is the report, and this is by I believe it's a BBC reporter, but whether it's BBC or not, this is clearly not an Israeli outlet.
Near Jerusalem, the army would not let Four Corners film inside.
I've been behind these walls 3 times. I saw children shuffling across the courtyard, handcuffed and shackled. Some hearings lasted 60 seconds. I saw one boy shout the name of his prison so his mother would know where he was being held. I saw the judge convict some children without even once looking at them. Through it all, what I saw was a conveyor belt of convicted children.
So there's the reality of it. A conveyor belt of convicted children, many of whom got 60 seconds or less of a quote-unquote trial or a hearing. And the conviction rate of Palestinians yanked, kidnapped, and put in front of these Israeli courts, the conviction rate is over 99%. Meaning these people are given no chance, no right, no justice. There's essentially no system for locking them up. It's just a formality. They are paraded in front of a judge for less than 60 seconds. The judge goes, you're in prison for 5 years, see you later. And many of them are children. And this is what Israel has done for decades. Kidnapping these Palestinians, locking them up. And we never hear about it, right? We heard a lot about the hostages taken on October 7th, and we should have. But we've never heard in the West about the thousands of hostages that Israel takes every year. And the clip I just played for you is the reality of it. And like he said, he was not allowed to film inside because Israel doesn't want people to know about the reality of their hostage-taking military industrial complex. But that's the reality of it. Thousands of children. Thank you so much, Kay Lear, for the donation. And thank you so much, where is it? Bill J for the donation. Really appreciate. Thank you for the solidarity. Thank you for the donation. And thank you for making this show possible. You guys are the best. And as I've mentioned before, you guys can, even if you're not watching this live, I know that, a few thousand of you watch it live, but tens of thousands of you watch it after it's live. So you can donate or support the show anytime by clicking the thanks button. And yeah, I do these 4 days a week. About to get to some more information on Haiti here. But yeah, I do these 4 days a week, 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific. And just show up because, as I always try and point out, it's unlikely that even if you hit subscribe, although I want you to hit subscribe because we're getting close to 70,000 subscribers on YouTube, and that'll be pretty exciting. All right. So love you hit subscribe, hit the bell icon, but you might not get the alert. So just show up 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific. Also, you can watch it anytime thereafter. Okay. So I know many of you, including myself, have been wondering what in God's name has been going on in Haiti. I know some of the history of Haiti, but I don't know all that much about what is happening right now. And so I went to one of my favorite Haiti sources, and he always does amazing, amazing work on Haiti. And he knows everything about Haiti, and he's covered Haiti for years and years, Kim Ives. And he's writing this article in Haiti Liberté. And it is an amazing article with a lot of truth about the U.S. involvement of what is happening in Haiti right now. Ariel Henry, 74, once the king of Haiti's chessboard, has now become a pawn of the U.S. in its increasingly desperate bid to send a proxy intervention force into the rebelling Caribbean island. Wow, D. Noor, that's a hell of a donation. You're rocking it, D. Noor. Thank you. Thank you for supporting this show and for the solidarity. Washington is now crumbling for, scrambling. Oh, wouldn't it be great if Washington went out crumbling? Boy, rarely has my misreading of a word caused me to break into tears. Washington is now scrambling for a way to send a quick reaction force into Haiti. And Ariel Henry remains one of their most important bargaining chips, the source says. After his charter jet landed in Puerto Rico on March 5th, the U.S. FBI interrogated Henry for 3 days. Oh, yeah, we have nothing to do with this. Haiti's just all on its own, and for some reason, bad stuff's happening. Oh, except our FBI is sitting there waiting to interrogate their president the moment he lands in Puerto Rico. Now, I can't remember whether he mentions it or not. Even though the FBI was interrogating Henry, that is not the full reason as to why he's not back in Haiti. He's not back in Haiti because the popular uprising there has blocked the airports and is stopping him from coming back. But anyway, we'll get to more of that in a moment. The first day of the FBI's interrogation was devoted to questioning him about his role in the July 7, 2021 assassination of the former Haitian president, Jovenel Moïse. The remaining 2 days of the FBI's interrogation focused on Haiti's 2024 payment of $500 million to Venezuela to pay off the $2.3 billion PetroCaribe loan account established between the two countries in 2008. So they spent 2 days interrogating this guy on why the fact he helped Venezuela. Well, how dare you write off debt of Venezuela in exchange for a less than full payment? And that infuriates the U.S. empire. Under the agreement, Venezuela wrote off the remaining $1.8 billion Haiti owed the country as well. So it was a deal they made. The Diplomatic Secret Service, DSS agents handling Henry have placed him under de facto house arrest on the U.S. Army's Fort Buchanan in Guaynabo, Puerto Rico. So he's on a U.S. Army base. So, yeah, we have nothing to do with it. He's just being interrogated by the FBI on a U.S. military base. There are 6 agents guarding him. The administration is extremely anxious, the Biden administration, extremely anxious to stabilize, quote unquote, the situation in Haiti, meaning stabilize U.S. control over Haiti. The State Department wants to deliver Henry to a new Haitian government of its choosing, of the State Department's choosing. Because that's our right? We just own the world, and it's our right to choose who rules any given country, and we just happen to always choose the fascists. We just happen to always choose the worst goddamn human beings in the world to run these countries and destroy lives, and we want to make sure it's the right one that will destroy lives. They want to deliver him back to a new Haitian government of its choosing. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken tried to concoct a Transitional Presidential Commission, the CPT, in Jamaica on March 11th. A few CARICOM leaders, particularly Guyana's president and Jamaica's prime minister, hosted and fronted the charade. So while the U.S. is saying, oh, look, we've created this committee to segue to a new leadership, it's bullshit. It's the U.S. going to allied countries and saying, let's pretend we run Haiti. Blinken's presidential commission stands absolutely no chance of success because Washington demanded that its members must support UN Security Council Resolution 2699, which endorses but does not oversee a foreign military intervention into Haiti called the Multinational Security Support Mission. Right. The Haitian people overwhelmingly reject the deployment of this mission. Blinken's formula went over like a lead balloon. So the U.S. government ran down, said, we're going to fix this Haiti problem. And Haiti goes, no, you're not. No, you're not. You're not us. Yeah, you guys in the U.S. seem to have forgot something. You're not us. So, yeah. Go diddle yourself with a brown banana. To quote from, let's see, to quote from Moise Jean-Charles, sure I'm not pronouncing any of these right. We reject CARICOM's proposal, he said in a press conference. We have overthrown Henri's government. Does it make sense for us to now sit down at a table and negotiate with it? Which is an amazing way to put it. We overthrew this government. Why do you expect us to sit down and listen to some negotiation now? Despite the near universal sentiment rejecting Washington's CPT, Blinken was still defending it as of just a few days ago. Blinken said this was a Haitian-led agreement. Oh, was it? Too bad there was no one in Haiti involved. At least no one that didn't have a gun to their head. Should Washington fail to install its replacement puppet government, keywords, it may also seek to woo the apparently anti-imperialist and impending Moise Philippe provisional government. So it seems that Haiti will have a government that the U.S. is not really a fan of because they are anti-imperial, but the U.S. thinks they may have ways to control said government anyway. That's part of their aim. Yeah. So, and then there's a lot of talk. There's been a lot of talk going around about, and again, I'm going to mispronounce this, Jimmy Cherizier, the leader and spokesman for the Live Together coalition of armed gangs, which effectively drove Ariel Henry from power after he left from Kenya on February 27th. Now, you've probably heard online maybe some talk of Jimmy Cherizier because they're calling the U.S. propaganda outlets have done everything they can to go after this guy and just destroy him with propaganda. And they've been calling him a cannibal and all these things. And from the reporting I've seen from the people that are actually reliable, like Kim Ives and Dan Cohen, that is not true. This is instead someone who has actually forged an alliance amongst the gangs to bring down the U.S.-backed puppet that was running things horribly. And so the whole he's a cannibal thing seems to be just a bunch of bullshit cooked up literally by Western interests. Some people in the chat are pointing out that he's being called Jimmy Barbecue. So he said, we have no problem with the council that would be headed by Guy Philippe because we are fighting for the same things. We have the same vision for Haiti's future, and we hope he keeps his vision. We in Live Together, Haiti's armed groups who are now all united, will not fight his proposed installation, but we will fight the presidential council cooked up last week in Jamaica by foreign governments with a bunch of corrupt politicians who have not a patriotic bone in their bodies. If they try to take power, even with the support of foreign troops, we will fight them to the very last drop of our Dessalinian blood. So I know this is shocking, but this sounds like a country that doesn't want the U.S. to run them, to put in puppet governments, to coup them. It sounds like they actually want their independence, which they keep fighting for. They won it initially back in the 1800s. They then were brought down and held down by the yoke of crushing debt because they had to pay off the people that enslaved them, being France, to the tune of billions of dollars. They only finished their payments for their freedom in the 1990s. And now the U.S. and Western interests have found other ways to make sure that Haiti will never actually be free. They couped the first ever democratically elected president of Haiti, Jean-Bertrand Aristide. They literally picked him up in a U.S. military jet and flew him to Africa. They kidnapped him. So that's what the U.S. does when you are not aligning with U.S. interests. Guy Philippe said, Ariel Henry is not the problem. He is just a piece of the bad guys' team. These guys are trying to take back power so they can keep destroying Haiti. Philippe said, Haiti is a sovereign country. No patriots, not real Haitians, would like any foreign nations to invade. And by the way, that note we see again and again and again. The U.S. supports some sort of opposition group in a country. For example, Venezuela with Juan Guaido. They support this opposition candidate, or they declare him president, even though he never got a single vote for president. And that guy, that opposition, starts making press conferences, starts making statements saying, we want the U.S. to invade. We need the U.S. to help, right? Zelensky is a big one, right? We want the U.S. should invade as much as possible. And you kind of know that these opposition groups are not real patriots, or not really aligned with the people of their country when they're asking the imperial octopus, the vampire squid, to enter their country, to come in and take over things. To continue from the quote, what if previous interventions brought to Haiti more misery, cholera, Ebola, AIDS? We don't need military intervention. We need help. We need soldiers here. The Haitian police force and army are enough and are trained enough to end that. Foreign troops will come here to keep the status quo and to help the rich. Boy, that doesn't sound familiar, does it? They will come here to make sure that rich countries keep stealing everything we have in Haiti. That's what they're here for, not for us. Boy, sounds all very familiar. Sounds like a game plan that the U.S. uses over and over and over and over again. Here is a continued quote from Philippe. There is no weapon more powerful than the people's will. If Haitian people want to resist, we will resist together. If they have to kill us together, they will kill all of us. But we can resist, and we will. Certainly we will. Indeed, if all else fails, Washington appears prepared to send its own troops. U.S. Southern Command, Southcom, is prepared with a broad range of contingency plans to ensure the safety and security of U.S. citizens in Haiti, right? That's what the U.S. does. We send safety and security. Would you like more safety and security in your neighborhood? Then just call the U.S. and we'll bring you that on the tip of a bomb. Ariel Henry may soon join the ranks of other former U.S. allies who were later dumped, betrayed, or killed by Washington. Can anyone guess who this list involves? Osama bin Laden, Saddam Hussein, Manuel Noriega, Rafael Trujillo, and yes, even Jovenel Moïse. As the late Henry Kissinger is once reported to have said, it may be dangerous to be America's enemy, but to be America's friend is fatal. So there's a little update on how well things are going in Haiti. The U.S. empire's tentacles are aiming for it. Is that a mixed metaphor there? No. Can you aim a tentacle? I guess if you had a tentacle gun that shot tentacles, you could aim some tentacles. Okay, I want to get to how the United States is... Wait, do I even have it? Oh, there it is. I want to get to how the United States is now out of the top 20 happiest countries in the world. And considering how much money the United States has, that's a big statement. And we'll talk about why and so much more. All that's coming on rumble.com/Lee Camp, as well as my locals page, rumble.com/Lee Camp. It's free to watch over there. Free to watch over at rumble.com/Lee Camp. That's rumble.com/Lee Camp. One more time, I'll say it. And thank you all to those of you who support the show, who somehow, whether it's through the super chats or through the thanks button or other ways, support this show and keep it going. We are building. I've tried so hard, despite all the censorship and all the suppression, to keep this show going. My last channel with 250,000 subscribers was banned around the world, and my TikTok was banned just a couple of months ago. But I'm still going, and thank you guys so much for the support. If you want to become a member of the community and support this show with 38 cents an episode, you can do that at leecamp.net. It'll forward you to my locals page, which is like Patreon, very similar to Patreon. You can join up over there, get all kinds of cool perks and stuff. And it is at leecamp.net. So when you get forwarded from leecamp.net, scroll down to become a supporter. You can click become a member, which is free, but that does not give you all the perks. If you want the perks, go to become a supporter. All right, rumble.com/leecamp for those of you who are not members at locals. Rumble.